What's going on, guys? It is your boy here, of course, the combat consultant, the soundboard god, Jacob Cooperman. And we got to talk about Ariel Helwani leaking. Well, I don't even know if it's called leaking. He just straight up announced the fight taking place between Francis Ngannou and Anthony Joshua. I love this. I got to be honest. I do. Because I was actually thinking about this in the car on the way over here to record. I do think that heavyweight boxing at the moment is in a pretty precarious state. And not because they have a lack of names in that division, but rather because, and it's kind of a problem that afflicts the rest of boxing in the moment, is that all the names at the top of these divisions are kind of bottlenecked at the top of the division. It's gotten better this past year, and I'm sure it will continue to get better, but I know a lot of the time, too, these top names are not willing to fight each other because of contract disputes and all this different type of stuff. But we're seeing more bigger fights now, right? Like Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis, Tyson Fury now is stepping in against Alexander Usyk. That was a fight that I personally wanted to see for the longest time. And it seems like Anthony Joshua now wants that big payday. Honestly, I don't blame him, and he's going to be stepping in there with one of the scariest individuals that the combat sports world has ever seen. Look, I'm not even going to try to put my analysis or commentator hat on here and break down this fight. I feel like we're not going to know what to expect until Francis Ngannou gets in there. With more experience, with more training under his belt, I'm sure he's going to look a lot better than he did last time, but will he get fraud checked? Like, was the Tyson Fury fight a farce? I don't know. See, Tyson Fury did mention that he didn't really train hard for his fight with Francis Ngannou because he, along with literally everyone else, 99.9% of people in the combat sports world, thought that it would be a cakewalk for him. And so he didn't train as hard as he normally would have. How much does that play a role in all of this? I'm super curious to see, because Anthony Joshua, I don't think, especially now after we've seen what Francis Ngannou can do if you don't take him seriously, Anthony Joshua is not going to make that same mistake. And I'll definitely do a video down the road talking about the tactical breakdown of this fight, the matchup. I don't really believe, again, that we can kind of look straight up at how this fight's going to play out, just because we don't really have enough footage to go off of for Ngannou. But what we do have is both of these guys' past fights, which were fairly recently, and we have some training footage from Ngannou, so we can comb through that. That'll be for a different video. I just wanted to give my honest reaction because this is crazy. This is nuts. I'm sure for all my combat sports fans, you guys have noticed a trend in these last, I'll say probably like, 2 years would be maybe a good time frame to go off of, how we're seeing more and more of these super fights, and fights that don't really have any bearing outside of the fact that they are these kind of circus affairs, these circus matchups, and that have real world applications, right, and consequences. Because you see, Francis Ngannou, I don't think that they would have ever, if it was such a close fight, and it was a close fight, I don't think that they would have ever let Ngannou get the nod there. You could say semi-real consequences, right? These big fights where it's the baddest man at heavyweight. Now we're getting them at a higher clip, and now they're becoming more and more accepted. I feel like the boxing purist take would be to not take away from the sport and give Francis Ngannou, a guy that fought Tyson Fury and had his moments and fought well, not just give him another big name off the bat. That might be at a different skill level than him just because he has the big name. And I think there is something to that, to be sure. Like, you know, I enjoy, again, these high stakes matchups where it's like, okay, you have this MMA guy coming in. He's not supposed to be doing anything of note. And then he does really well for himself, handles himself nicely in the ring. And so it's like, now let's see what he can do. But there's another part of me that thinks that this could be a little bit treacherous for the heavyweight division if we have a guy in Francis Ngannou just coming in and evaporating everyone that they put in front of him. Do I think that he's going to evaporate AJ? Definitely not. Do I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be competitive? I don't know. Again, that's something that I can't really think about right now. I'd have to look at more footage. I'd have to look at Francis Ngannou's base tendencies. I learned that we can't look at open workouts as gospel anymore, because the Francis Ngannou we saw at his open workout for the Tyson Fury fight was not the same Francis Ngannou we saw in the ring. But yes, I do think that we just, for the sport of boxing and for the sport of MMA, we have to be a little bit careful with how many crossover fights we do, because the waters could get muddied, and I couldn't tell you off the bat what bad things could happen from that, but I do have an inclination that you don't want to just have these be a regular and common occurrence, because I feel like that that wears down at the integrity of both boxing and MMA. And it also, I mean, it's the law of averages, right? I mean, the more of something you have, the less valuable it becomes, right? So there's a couple of reasons why I would kind of object to having more of these fights like this. And maybe Francis Ngannou getting such a big name in Anthony Joshua right after he fought well against Tyson Fury. I think you got to give Ngannou, I hate to say it like this, but a lesser known name. I think stars like Ngannou in MMA and in boxing, you have to be very guarded and protective over, and vice versa, right? Like, this is a guy that has potential to move mountains and to change the landscape of combat sports. And I never thought that I would be saying that about a guy like Francis Ngannou, but in 2024, here we are. That's not a guy that you just match people up with willy-nilly. Then there's also the other big issue of PFL. Like, the PFL signed him to fight in the smart cage. So I can't imagine if he's going to go off on this boxing fiasco, if they're going to be all too happy about him seemingly forgetting about MMA. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know. Overall, though, super duper excited for this fight. I got that super fight jitter when I saw that on Ariel Helwani's Instagram and Twitter. I was like, ooh, you know what I mean? I got a little bit jittery, a little bit antsy. Do let me know what you guys think about the fight down in the comment section below. It's been your boy Coop, the combat consultant, the soundboard god. By the way, these shirts, you guys can go cop them. I'll put the link down in the description below. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.